Good friggin' morning from New England, folks, and welcome back to episode 44 of the So New England podcast. I am your host, Ian Brownhill, joined by my co-host, Robert Travisano, all things Life's Bettah in New England and So New England podcast producer, Vin Guarneri, behind the camera. Guys, I think you might be able to see from our backdrop here, but we are in a very special situation, scenario, a So New England podcast first. We are at Fenway Park right now, inside of the MGM Springfield suite, because this episode is sponsored and brought to you by MGM Springfield. But I'm like wicked excited. This is really cool. The guest we have today, I've made a really fun video with. I'm sure you guys all saw it, where I tried to steal some of his rings. Okay, let me not get ahead of myself because RJ's got a great introduction.
Don't
RJ,
spoil it.
Please tell us who today's guest is.
Is everybody ready for their parts? Because this is the most in-depth intro we've done.
Just don't put your hand on the mic and we'll be good.
Don't worry about where I put my where I put my hand. Our next guest will go down in history for Red Sox Nation, and let me tell you why. For years, our boys in red were cursed. That's all you ever heard. Curse this, curse that. But then, on a beautiful fall October night, the boys broke the curse and went down as World Series champs. Now, if you know baseball, you know how important it is to have a closer. And there's only one way to introduce our guest. Chens?
Oh, yeah.
We're feeling it.
You got that energy.
Yeah.
I can feel the lights. I can hear the crowd getting loud right now.
Oh, yeah.
Are you feeling it?
With great pleasure, I welcome the 2003 AL Saves leader, 2003 All-Star, one of the amazing men to finally break the curse,
Woo!
2004 World Series champion, Keith Foulke.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a
Does that
good
get you
one.
hyped?
Yeah. Well, it's funny being here and hearing that music, and you talk about, kind of the feeling. It's like I still remember the feeling when, you come out of the gate and you're running in, and, it gets me
There
gets
must
me
be
excited.
nothing like that electric. Be honest, do you still kind of like when you're driving in every once in a while, you just kind of let the music play?
When it comes on the radio, I definitely turn it up a little bit. And
That's
it,
cool.
like I said, it kind of transports me back in time, and,
What was the, what brought you to wanting to have that as your intro song?
oddly enough, I didn't pick it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It was one of those things, and at that time is when a lot of the guys started to have their walk-up music and all that stuff. But, when I came in from the bullpen, I was pretty locked in, so I didn't worry about it. And Gabe Kapler's like, dude, we got to get you a song. And I'm like, there you go, Gabe. You pick it out. And he's the one that came up with that.
That's so sick.
Shout out Gabe. It
so
is a great
cool.
song.
I'll have to be honest with you. Full transparency, Keith. I'm pretty sure I outpitched you when we did some stuff over at MGM Springfield
Lord.
at the
On the simulator?
On the simulator. I'm pretty
Okay,
sure.
yeah.
I know, your shoulder's not as primed as it once was, but I am like the worst baseball player ever. Right? I struck out in T-ball.
I believe it.
You guys didn't play baseball, did you?
No.
No,
That was the
yeah,
one
so-
sport I could never.
So baseball is like, I'm not like, that's not my forte. It's not my specialty. So
Well, being up here, yeah, it's, you guys don't play as much as we did.
yeah. So where are you from originally?
I grew up in Huffman, Texas, which is just outside of Houston.
Awesome.
You know,
Okay.
So we grew up playing baseball and football.
And you were just gravitated, drawn right to pitching right away when you started playing?
Oh, no, not really. I wanted to be a football player, but didn't have the grades to get into college.
Yeah, that's
So
tough.
it's like, I'm gonna try this baseball. I mean, I was always pretty good at it, but I
Yeah.
never really worked at it. And when I was in junior college, my sophomore year is when I finally started pitching more. And in my junior year is when I decided, I couldn't hit the slider anymore. So the game decided that you need to be a pitcher.
That's hilarious. So, of all of the places that you have played and all the places that you wound up, I would love to get your experience of like what it was like coming and playing for the Red Sox, being in the city of Boston, in the state of Massachusetts, and just like the New England region as a whole, because obviously our identity here is our sports. And I'm like wondering from a player perspective, like when you don't grow up here, like what that feels like.
Yeah, so my first trip to Boston was in '97, and like I said, I grew up in the South, and everything I ever did was in the South and out west. So I'd never been to the Northeast really, but I came here, and I remember Frank Thomas. Well, first of all, he took me to Daisy's, so that was kind of that was one of my first introductions to Boston. But like you said, I came here, and you come to the games back then. They were completely sold out every night. Yankees suck chants 4 or 5 times, even though we're playing the White Sox or the A's. So, I loved coming here, and, it's just a great sports town. There's a lot of college women back in the day, and so it was just a great place to play. And when they started coming after me in '03, it's like, you know what, I kind of wanted that challenge of pitching in a big market. Like I said, I'd always loved coming here as a visiting player, and so it was, it's like you said, the sports are just it, and I love that.
That's awesome.
That's so cool.
What goes into like the decision making to be like a closer? Like I said, like my knowledge is like, I'm like one of those Boston sports guy that's just like, oh, look, I'm a New Englander. I'm going to root for everyone. Sometimes I don't totally understand the game. So, I mean, like I played growing up quite a bit, but I, stopped at, I don't know, probably like middle school. So there was never really like you're the first pitcher, you're the closer. Like, so walk me through the process to making the decision to be like a closer. Like what led you to want to have that kind of pressure and importance in a game?
Yeah, well, I didn't choose that. I came up as a starter, and when I was in the minor leagues up with the Giants, I was a dominant starter. I took pride in going, 8-9 innings every time.
Damn.
I led the organization in innings every year. I got traded to the White Sox, and that was part of the what they call the white flag trade back in the days, where the White Sox got rid of a lot of their big players, so they brought up their young starters. They put me in the bullpen, just to kind of get settled in. And basically, I never left. I did a really good job. And at that time, I just wanted to pitch.
Yeah.
I didn't care. I'd pitch 4 innings. I'd pitch 1 out. It didn't matter. But, after I was in the league 3 or 4 years and you start to get more consistent outs, big outs, is when they kind of give you that shot at being a closer.
What kind of like, what does that pressure feel like? Like what goes on in like your head? How did you get yourself like locked in to like drown out the noise? And I'm just talking about being a closer in general, let alone in such big games like the World Series when you got the curse on the line, like
plus the big markets too.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things that I put a lot of pressure on myself. It didn't matter if I was pitching in front of, 3,500 people in Oakland or if you're pitching in front of 36,000 here. I put that same pressure on myself every day, to do the exact same thing. It didn't matter if it was, the 5th inning, the 7th inning, 9th inning, World Series. I kind of unknowingly started training myself for that, 2 or 3 years into the league. So, every out, every pitch for me was the most important pitch of the year.
That's awesome.
That's a great way to have that mindset.
Who was your least favorite batter to pitch against? Like who did you just couldn't stand it? Every time they got in the box, you're like this.
Well, Edgar Martinez, when he was back with the Mariners back in the day, that guy gave me fits his whole career, my career. Everything I would throw, good pitches, down and away, up and in. He just found a way to get barreled to it. So when he retired, I was like,
outside of Fenway Park, is there another field or stadium that you loved playing at?
Seattle.
Oh, okay.
Because not that they're the same places, but kind of the same vibe. They have really good fans. I'm a big guy, so I like to eat.
Yeah.
So anywhere with good seafood.
Oh, okay.
And kind of, moderate climates.
Oh, I love that. So then let's talk about the seafood and your food experience here in Boston when you got here. Like Texas to New England's a big swing in like food demographics. So what was your go-to place? What kind of foods did you like to eat? What did you try?
Well, big into seafood, obviously.
Yep.
I'm trying to think of where we used to eat, but it was tough back in the day because you couldn't go out. Anytime you went out, it's like somebody would always be like, "Oh, excuse me, I hate to bother you," and I'm like, "Yeah, you know what? I hate that you're bothering me too." I just, sitting there with the wife, it's like, I get, only get a couple hours a week to spend.
Right,
it's like
right.
I'm just trying to have a dinner and
not talk baseball for 5 seconds.
Yeah, well, it's one thing. When I was away from the field, we didn't talk baseball.
Yeah,
that was one thing that the wife learned is like when I left here, I left it. I had to get away because I couldn't. Everybody's like, "Oh, you need to have a short memory." Well, fuck that, I didn't.
Yeah.
If I gave up a game or a home run or whatever, it's like I would dwell on it.
Yeah.
And it'd keep me up at night. So when I left, it's like I didn't watch Sports Center, I didn't listen to the radio, I don't want to talk about baseball.
Smart.
And when people find you in a restaurant in the street and they always want to tell you, let me tell you what I think. I'm like,
So this is why we call it the So New England podcast, because that right there is so New England. It like leave it to a New Englander to come up and try and tell you, right?
Yeah.
And this is someone who probably can't tie their own shoes without having heartburn and running out of breath. And they're like, you know what you're doing wrong? When you're coming over the top here, you just like, you got to let it go, you know?
Yeah. So I used to live at the Ritz Towers up, in the Commons and Theater District.
Nice,
and
awesome.
like, there's times where you'd see people would literally run across the street and be like, hey, Mr. Foulke, hey, we love you. But, hey, if you could get those outs quicker or whatever. I'm like, okay. You know what? Shit, I should have really thought about that. Because there's nothing makes me happier than throwing a ball on the fucking Lansdowne.
Yeah.
Right? God, I really should have thought about it. Great talk, man. Appreciate it.
It's like, what do you think? Do you think I should just throw more strikes?
Yeah.
You think that's a good strategy? I didn't consider it. I thought it was actually a little bit better to, just lob one out there so it just gets fucking cranked.
Yeah.
Thanks for the advice.
Giving up a 3-run home run on a Sunday game, it's like, shit, I thought that was a good idea. Yeah. God,
Trying to pad some stats, apparently.
I got rings to win. I'm not trying to screw this up.
Yeah.
I mean,
Could you
believe it or not.
imagine? I couldn't even imagine that. Like, sometimes I think about people who have that status, whether they're celebrities, ball players, or anything like that, and then you have just like, and I use this term very loosely, but you'll get the point. But like, they're common folk. Like, you coming over to tell me, like,
Right?
how to pitch.
Right.
That is my full-time job. Do you walk in the bank and tell them how to deal with money, or go
Right.
tell CEO of X company how to run their company? Like,
Yeah.
get away from me.
Well, what's funny is even the wife, it's like back in the day it was different, because the fans knew who we were.
Right.
The fans knew who your wife was. So, the wife would have, I had my son was infant, 10, 11 months, whatever it was at that time. And, he would have women, or she would have women approach her and be like, hey, tell Keith this, and this. My husband says if he gets on top of it, and she'd be like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And it got to where it was a serious drag on her because everywhere she went, people knew Red Sox wives. That was before social media and stuff.
I was going to say, imagine
really
with social
engaged.
media, it's got to be 10 times worse now.
Yeah.
God,
Couldn't
that's
even
brutal.
imagine. What would you say was the hardest thing to learn growing up?
Probably learning how to like use, save, or spend money.
You legit worked in banking, did you not?
You're welcome.
Are you still with Dime Bank, or are you too Hollywood now?
Okay, rude, but yes, I am.
Imagine your followers finding out you're with a Connecticut-based bank.
Okay, first of all, they have a branch in Wesley, Rhode Island, which is where we grew up. So really, that's brownie points because I'm sticking to my roots. Second, I think everyone would appreciate that I'm with a bank that knows and understands their community. Their tagline is legit, community banking lives here.
Hey, I'm not asking you to sell me on it. I've been banking with them for years, and they know me on a first-name basis. I'm just saying, I'm surprised is all. I can see the headlines now. Mr. Anti-Connecticut actually banks with local community bank?
Okay, you know what? Follow along with me here. They're FDIC insured, equal housing lenders, wicked friendly. They take care of all my personal needs, have expansive products to help all my businesses, offer lending across the board, merchant services. What more could I possibly want or need? And you know that I secretly like Connecticut, so...
Oh, I hope you heard that, folks. Dime Bank is the reason Ian loves Connecticut.
Okay, you're ridiculous. Funny story, though. You know how they have like the mobile app with like banking, Lifesaver, you can do all the deposits. Have you tried to teach your mom how to do the mobile deposit
No.
yet? I was teaching my mom how to do it, and she takes a selfie instead of the check. Visit dimebank.com to learn more. So when you got here, had you had clam chowder before coming from Texas? Or was your...
I used to get in the Campbell's big, Campbell's
God.
thing. Yeah.
Gross. What was your first experience though, like with clam? Like, did you get like a lobster roll, a clam chowder?
Not the lobster rolls, but the clam chowder is, it's like I said, when we coming here as a visiting player, there used to be illegals in the mall where we used to stay. So it's like
that's right.
that was the lunch, 3 days a week, and you had to start with the clam chowder, so.
Love it.
Great.
Cornwall's across the street here has really good clam chowder.
Oh yeah, I feel like
Throw
you
it out
just
to them.
throw a rock in like a 1 mile race of anywhere here, you're gonna get some good clam chowder.
Yeah. They know my drink order, so that's my preference.
Love that.
All right,
That's
you got to walk us
status
through
right
this
there.
World Series season, man. What was it like? Like, just the environment, the energy. Obviously, you solidified yourself not only as a player but a household name here in Boston forever because of those final pitches and reversing that curse. But I just like, when you're growing up and you're a sports fan or you're a sports player, you think about those moments your whole life. And, as a kid, for me, basketball player, like, I'd be dribbling on the driveway and I'd be like, 3 seconds left on the shot clock, game 7. Ian Brownhill, the Boston Celtics, takes a fadeaway jumper and wait, but you really got to live that. You know what I mean? You have everyone in the stands on their feet just waiting for that final pitch. Like, I'm just curious, the energy, like what it felt like for you that entire season, and then winning it and what it felt like after the duck boats. Like, just if you don't mind, walk me through that experience as a player.
Well, it's, being my first year in Boston. So it's like I said, I'd come here for years, but, I was only here 3 or 4 days at a time.
Right.
So learning how to adjust to Boston, for that full season was, it wasn't easy. It was tough, because there's, traffic. You're in the city. It's like I'm a country boy. So there's like never any quiet time.
Right.
I used to go on drives at night, just head up 93 to New Hampshire just to get out, kind of run the car a little bit, run the bike a little bit.
Yeah.
But, that season was a great season. It ended great, but, most people remember it was, we were a 500 ball club for a while, we're scuffling. And so there was a lot of ups and downs in that. But, once we got to the playoffs and, you got our ass handed to us by the Yankees and, end up 3-0, it's like, whoa, we got some work to do. But, there was, like I said, there were the ups and downs, but, once we finally got through the Yankees and, I think the Cardinals, even though they're a great ball club, I don't think they stood a chance. But, I just keep going to the duck boats. That parade was the most, I don't even know how to describe it. It was the most overwhelming moment of my life, to go out there and it's like, you see literally millions and millions of people, and it's like, God, this is what it's about,
That was coming off the same year the Pats won the Super Bowl too, so it was like that was the second Duck Pope parade, and that must have been really cool to kind of experience that, because you see some of these teams that really don't have that same experience. Because
we're so fortunate as like
really
Boston sports fan. The
well,
amount of
we had a 20-year run. I say we because I'm a Bostonian now.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I got all the T-shirts. And I got all the stuff. So
awesome. So the other thing that I am like kind of curious about is obviously you had the great fortune of playing with like so many amazing guys. Is there a favorite teammate for you? Someone that like you always went out with, someone that you just like loved being teammates with, playing with?
Like especially playing here, we had some great teammates. How many we got a couple Hall of Famers, we got 1 or 2 more that could have been Hall of Famers if things were different. But I don't know if I ever had a favorite teammate. I played with a guy in the minor leagues and in the big leagues, Bob Howery, so we're good buddies. But like one of my favorite guys here was Doug Mirabelli. The backup catcher. It's like we were played together in the minor leagues, so I was really familiar. But
cool.
Our sarcasm and our humor always kind of went together, and he was always very lighthearted. I threw to him a lot late in games.
Right.
But it's like, I had a lot of good teammates. I only had a couple shithead. So
tell us about. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. So, like, as a pitcher, one of the things I always found cool, because we're sports guys. I played quarterback in high school, so I had a good relationship with like my lineman, my center specifically, and I feel like that's very similar in baseball, where pitchers and catchers have a very good relationship. Can you kind of give us a little bit of what makes that important? Because as sports people, like, that's the stuff I really love, like knowing how they tick, knowing how they work. It's almost kind of like a golfer and their caddy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, especially being here, we were very fortunate to have, Tech as our catcher, and there's never been anybody in the game that works harder, studies more than him. So as a pitcher, it was always, and that's before analytics and all that, before the front office and everybody kind of started stepping on the players. But, it's like when he puts down a sign, it's like, I'm very confident that he knows what we're doing. Did I always want to do it? No. People would be like, oh, we never shook off Tech. And I was like, well, yeah, I did. If I didn't want to do something, I'm going to do what I want to do. But, having Tech back there was very reassuring.
Yeah.
I wasn't afraid to throw a breaking ball or a change up in the dirt, because he'll give his life to stop every pitch. So, very,
That's
very
so
comforting.
cool. Love that. Thank you. That's great.
The one thing that you kind of dwell on, like as a fan, is the players like interest, and you were kind of saying like it's difficult to kind of, disconnect when you leave the field and you want that like personal life. But as a fan, like you become so utterly obsessed with players and all these different things. So the short of it is your experience with the fans. What do you think of Boston fans as a whole?
The passion is there. I honestly believe that the New England sports family is the best. They're the best fans in all sports. They're not, there's passion, but they're not idiots.
Yeah.
They're not Philly fans. They're not going to throw shit at you. It's, the knowledge of the sports, of all sports, is there. And they have their passion.
Yeah,
that's right.
But,
I was gonna
we
say-
also get paid, so
Yeah.
it's like, they're going to boo you.
Right.
And, I got in trouble a lot for speaking the truth, especially in the media, but, I just want to be transparent with the fans,
Gotta be. I was gonna say, because we joke about it sometimes, like, every now and again, especially because I feel like New England Boston fans, it's very hard for us because we're not used to losing.
Yeah.
Especially, because
Especially our age group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we were big. I mean, we're big football guys. I mean, we love all the teams and we'll always support them, but football was our go-to. So we've been to a lot of games. And I think, a year ago was the first time, and I'm 33, I ever went to Gillette and they lost. And we had been to a dozen and a half games and they lost. And it was like towards the end of the season. And I remember listening to some fans like hanging off the side of the like 300 sections, ripping into players. And I'm like, wow, that's insane.
Brutal.
That was like, that's either like the worst part of us or the best, because we're so passionate. We're that
Definitely the
mad
worst.
at people we don't know.
We've been so spoiled, and especially with the Pats, they run off 10 Super Bowls,
right?
In 20 years, it's like that's unheard of,
right?
So you get used to it where they're in the playoffs,
right?
Game one, they're going to be in the playoffs. A pretty good chance they're going to be in the AFC Championship, Super Bowl. So you get this just expectation.
It's like, what are we doing in February? Like, I thought we were watching football. We're not watching football anymore. Like, come on.
It's like the Bruins this year. It's like people ask, "Oh, you've been watching the playoffs?" And I'm like, "No, I'm pretty sure they canceled the playoffs when the Bruins cleaned house." Like, I didn't watch a hockey game the rest of the year.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, did you become like a Boston sports fan?
Oh,
after
100%.
Yeah, I feel like that happens. Like all the players, you just kind of get drawn in.
Yeah,
I just feel like our city has that energy.
We get a lot of perks, so I get tickets to a lot of games and a lot of good seats, and it's one of those things. I dated a girl up here for a lot. Yeah, thank you.
Let's not forget, you broke the curse, kid. You're allowed to sit wherever you want in any stadium.
Kinda, yeah. But I dated a girl up here for a long time, and so I lived up here. So it's like, this is, and I still come back here all the time for work. I do stuff with the Red Sox and for different corporate, companies. But, I'm definitely a Boston fan.
That's awesome.
Love
what
that.
was your best and worst interaction with a fan? Like when you're in the bullpen, because people are heckling you the whole time, right? While you're trying to warm up.
No, they're very respectful.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Now
I figured someone was going to be doing some shit.
Oh, yeah. I mean, different cities, like I said, if you're in Philly, you always want to make sure that somebody's got an eye on the stands, because they'll throw shit at you. They're going to tell you about your sister and your mother and all that good stuff.
I can only imagine nowadays being a ball player with like social media, because most of that stuff's not that hard to find, and people will find a way to find stuff up about you. So if you have anybody that's like, oh yeah, your girlfriend's sister, it's like next thing you know, you're here.
Right.
Like,
I don't know if I can
find
handle
that out?
You know what? Yeah, that's one thing the fans never got to me. There's nothing anybody could ever say that would like, oh, you got me.
Yeah.
It's like I interacted with the fans all the time, and if somebody had a good one-liner, I'd be like, no, that's a good one.
Yeah,
right?
that's good.
I can see you being cool
it's
like
funny,
that.
but it's my goal was always that when somebody wanted to get on you all game, it's like by the end of the game, you're buying me beers.
Yeah.
Like that was my goal. I'm gonna get you, we're gonna be friends, and you're buying me beer.
Yeah,
that was always my goal.
That's awesome.
So
serious question. How sick of Sweet Caroline are you? Like it just like
everybody, because when we go into bars or like, people see like, oh, Red Sox, and like put on the jukebox, I'm like, oh, this fucking song. So people are like, oh, it's a Boston tradition. I'm like, yeah, but the problem is I played, 8 years before I came to Boston.
Right.
So I was the visiting player running in during the 8th inning when they're playing that song, and here I am trying to get hyped and all this stuff, and all I hear is, sweet. I'm like, and it's like the only line I ever hear is it's like a pervert song. It's like touching me, touching you. It's
Right.
like what are these people into here? Right?
Especially with like social media.
What's this song really about?
Yeah.
Does anybody know? Or
No,
is it just-
I just ignore. I posted on social media once, and someone was like, "Have you ever actually like? Do you know the story behind this?" I was like, "Listen, do you know the story behind anything in Boston? Just let me have it. It's not me. It's just a song.
yeah, it's about me touching you.
Yeah,
and it's
touching
like,
me, touching you.
huh,
That's it.
interesting.
We'll lead with that. That's good enough.
So it's not my favorite. I don't sing it. I just try to go get a beer or something.
Yeah. Now, I know you said that you get out every once in a while. Did you get up to like Vermont, Maine? You ever come down to Little Rhodey, where we're from, Connecticut at all? You ever spend time in those?
Well, not as a after being a player, yeah.
After
So I spent
being-
a lot of time in Connecticut and Rhode Island. I worked with the Red Sox in player development for a while, so I spent a lot of time in Portland.
Oh,
a lot of
nice.
time in Pawtucket back in the day.
Yeah. Oh, they just tore down McCoy Stadium last week.
Yeah.
That one broke our heart. That's
That
like
was a tough one.
Yeah.
And now they're over in Worcester.
Worcester.
Jeremy, who just walked in, he's a Worcester guy.
Yeah, that's it was fun. Pawtucket had a great run, but whatever it is, the state and the team, they could never figure it out. So
It's a bummer. All right, Keith, we're
Yeah.
not going to keep you too much longer, so we're going to get into our So New England segment here, okay?
This is the best part.
So I would like you, if you don't mind, this is following up that last question, how much time you've spent here in New England. I know you're a Texas boy, but I would like for you to rank in order the best New England states.
the best New England states.
Obviously, I'm assuming you're going to go Massachusetts one, but I don't know. Maybe you really like New Hampshire.
You would assume that, but I love New Hampshire.
There we go, baby.
I love New Hampshire. I love Maine.
Yes.
Because I think there's some rednecks up there.
Yeah.
So it really goes back that it's very similar, especially Maine. It's like very kind of protective.
Yeah.
Kind of that Texas feel. So I love New Hampshire, Maine. Haven't spent a whole lot of time in Vermont.
Okay, so then we're going to go New Hampshire first, Maine second.
No, I got to go Maine first.
Ooh, Maine first. Okay.
I spent a lot of time up at
That's
Sugarloaf.
pretty. We don't get a ton of Maine
we don't.
first.
They're usually somewhere in that like 2 to 4 range, but
Where
never
everyone's like,
number
we like
one.
it, but I've only really
Yeah.
been to like a few, like Portland, just
We're branching out. Though.
Bangor
We're
maybe,
gonna
but
get some.
Yeah,
some
a lot of
Mainers
time in the Portland, a lot of time up in the Carravasset Valley, and Sugarloaf and that.
Oh,
the only
beautiful.
time I've ever been to New Hampshire is really when we go up to see UNH games.
Oh, nice.
So
Cool.
And then what after that? You're gonna go?
we'll go Maine, Connecticut.
Wow.
Massachusetts.
Pretty high on our list.
Yeah,
I don't know if you know this, Keith, but we're not big Connecticut folks over here.
yeah.
But we'll allow it. Okay. And then where are you gonna put my little roadie? We're gonna be at the bottom, or do we at least beat Vermont?
Oh, I've spent more time in Connecticut or Rhode Island than I have Vermont, so we'll put go Rhode Island.
I'm not saying that I was gonna freak out, but if you put like the fact that Connecticut's before Rhode Island already makes me a little bit upset, Keith. But
Well, if you take
you broke the curse, so I guess I'll
there's
allow
only
it.
2 cities in Rhode Island. You had Providence and Pawtucket, right?
Yeah.
So.
Well, at least you didn't say Newport. That makes me happy. That's
Yeah,
all
that's
right.
the first time.
that's
Usually-
not my crowd.
That's good. Oh, finally, someone who gets it.
Not my crowd.
Love
Awesome. Okay, what would you say is your top 3 favorite like New England type of foods? When you were here, what you were able, because I know you said like seafood. Would you have like a favorite seafood dish particularly that you got up here?
Well, I love lobster.
it. Ooh,
But you didn't do the lobster roll. You just did like,
Well, no. Yeah, back in the day, I did do lobster rolls.
Okay.
Now,
Okay.
especially when they're free, yeah.
are you a hot or cold guy?
Oh, hot.
Okay.
Hot with butter.
Keith gets
Yeah.
it.
slanging and banging.
Yeah.
Love that.
But yeah, big seafood. Obviously the food in the North End is incredible.
Yes.
Man, I don't know. Is there any other kind of food?
Well, obviously.
Salvage barbecue
Did
used
you
to
ever
be
have
up
a
in-
coffee milk when you were in Rhode Island?
No, I didn't start drinking coffee till a couple
No, but a
years ago.
coffee milk. That's like a
I
Rhode
don't know what the fuck
Island.
That is.
So okay, we'll put you on game. So coffee milk is you just take. I think it has to be whole milk. Personally, you can do 2%. It has to be whole milk, and there's Autocraft syrup. It's a coffee flavored syrup that you pour into your milk and then you mix it. So that means you've never been to Oneyville. You didn't have 3 all the way. You were in like Pawtucket all this time. You didn't get to Oneyville and have 3 all the way. Someone did you dirty at the Paw
Yeah.
Sox. No wonder their building closed and they got sold.
How do you not give me
Christ.
3 hot wieners?
It's 3 all the way is hot wieners. So,
Okay.
or hot dog.
Or the
Nope,
red
nope.
ones?
I know it's not a hot dog.
Don't.
I'm just trying to break it down to him so he
He's
knows.
from Boston. He gets it.
All right, well,
He's
it's a
our
hot
Boston
wiener,
guy now.
and it's got. Actually, you know what? This is RJ's forte. Explain to him.
So here's what happens. The guy lines up all the buns on his arm. Hot wiener, chili, onions, a little sprinkle powder mixture of God only knows what. And then as he's doing that, the sweat from his arm slightly soaks into the bun to give it the extra seasoning. No ketchup, strictly mustard, and then you enjoy 3 of them all the way just like that.
Once you smell it once, you'll never forget the smell. It's
Kind of
so
like
potent.
fast food. As soon as you're done eating it, you're like, I absolutely 1,000% regret what I just put in my body.
So that's a
during
staple.
it,
That's a staple in Rhode
I
Island.
missed that.
Yeah.
Coffee, milk, and 3 all the way.
All right.
But you know, like there's apple cider donuts, there's whoopie pies.
Oh, well, I had plenty of whoopie pies.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, technically American chop suey, that's like universal, but like that is technically from New England.
It's a weird
But-
one. That's
Okay,
that's
well,
a you thing.
How about in clam chowder? You've never done red chowder? You never done
Oh,
like
I tried the red chowder one time.
we like it, we don't like
No.
it?
Absolutely
Rhode Island's
not.
got clear chowder too. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't.
We're the worst at everything.
Yeah,
I don't know what the
it's
hell
so-
we were doing. They were like, I got an idea. Let's just put it in broth. Stupid. And I'm a Rhode Island guy. I'm like, what the
Yeah.
hell is the point of that?
Rhode Island clear chowder.
All right. If you could add one additional state to New England, it brings the nice weather, it brings the traffic, the people, it brings like the
Don't
geography
need,
of
don't need
it.
any more traffic.
Yeah.
Don't need any more traffic. Yeah, I mean the one thing is the weather. You know,
Yeah.
the winters here are just
Brutal.
shitty.
Yeah.
You know?
Seasonal depression.
Yeah.
Although right now, I tell you what, it's like 75, nice
It's a
breeze.
beautiful day.
Afternoon game at
Beautiful now.
Fenway Park.
We're living the dream.
With the
it's-
man who reversed a curse. Thank you, MGM Springfield. This is what my life is supposed to be. I manifested this. This is what I used to dream about when I was in detention.
Yeah. I actually have sunglasses on today.
Yeah,
You know?
I brought them. I never put them on. I don't know where they are, but I had some on, but I never put them on. But it's just like, I was like, I feel like Keith is going to wear them, so I got to wear some
Yeah.
sunglasses.
But yeah, the weather's, well, if the weather was better, there'd be another, 10 million people here.
Yeah.
Just like Arizona. If the weather didn't get so hot, there'd be another 10 million people.
So what are you bringing over? You bringing Arizona over then?
Yeah, a little bit of dryness. A little bit of dry air, and it's
Our
not
dry
always
humor isn't enough for you?
I like good stuff.
I was gonna say I'm more of a dry heat kind of guy.
Yeah.
I love Arizona. We went to Vegas one time many years ago, and it didn't bother me as much. But Florida, that
The humidity.
kills me.
Yeah, it's the reason why I don't live in Texas anymore.
Yeah.
Because I got away from humidity, mosquitoes.
Yep.
The
Yeah.
humidity, you can't hide from it. It's when it's 100 degrees, 100% humidity.
Oh, the
It's
worst.
you might as well be
Hurts.
dead.
It's thick.
Yeah, yeah, it's thick.
Awesome. All right, Keith. So I know that you now, obviously, with your career having concluded, that you still kind of get out and about. You do signatures, you do events. Like, where can people kind of find you to keep track of those things so that they can come out and meet you? Or
Yeah, well, always on Instagram and Twitter or X, whatever it's called. It started a great relationship with MGM, so we'll be out there tomorrow
Yeah.
evening to do be giving some stuff away. Enjoying the finer things of casino life.
Let's go.
I love that.
That's so good.
One last thing, Keith.
Uh-oh.
I need you to give me your very best Boston accent.
No.
Come on.
No.
Just give me a
No.
pocket on the Javid Yard.
No.
One time.
That's so
we need
like,
more Tito's over here.
Yeah.
I know he'll do it.
Now we need more tequila.
Tequila. That's right.
Our
Tequila,
boy, our
sorry.
boy John screwed that up. No, but that's one thing. I don't do impressions. I leave it to the professionals.
I know, but
Hey.
you're a Texas boy, so
Yeah.
you got a slang
I
already.
don't. Yeah. Well, the more I drink, the more the
All right,
redneck comes
again,
out.
We'll pick this podcast back up in about 2 hours.
Yeah, there we go.
we might
more
insert a
tequila.
clip
We
after
should
this.
we should do it in segments.
One
Well,
tequila,
Keith, thank
two
you so
tequila.
much for sitting down with us on the So New England podcast and
Thank you
chatting
so
about
much.
it. Thank you for everything you did for our city. I know that seems a bit drastic, but our sports are pretty important to us. So
I take great pride in being part of that, and we didn't save the city, but we definitely helped transform the sports scene, and I'm very proud of that.
which organically saved the city because there was a lot of people who were ready to jump off
Yeah.
of Tobin. So once
Well, it's under construction now, so it'll be tougher.
shocker, a bridge under construction in New England. Who else would have thought? Awesome. Well, MGM Springfield, thank you so much for bringing us out today. We really appreciate it. Keith, thank you again.
Thank you for
And
having me.
please remember, folks, life's better in New England. Just one pocket on the Javid Yard. Just one.
No.
Red Sox crack and the Celtics fly.